Chapter 2 From the Tudor Period to the End of the Napoleonic Wars. The Tudor period can be regarded as the beginning of modern times. An absolute monarchy and the national church, controlled by the state, were established, and England laid the foundations for its maritime supremacy. But a temporary balance of power that marked the period collapsed in the Stuart era, and the conflict between the Crown and Parliament resulted in the Civil War. The principles of constitutional monarchy were laid in the 1688 to 89. In the 18th century, Britain became a great maritime, trading and financial power as a result of successful wars with France and the Industrial Revolution. Tudor period. Henry VII made use of the situation after the end of the Wars of the Roses to establish an absolute monarchy. He created a new nobility from the upper middle class. The new noblemen were entrusted with the state offices, especially in the private council, the predecessor of the modern cabinet, and in the prerogative courts Henry had set up. He avoided military conflicts, but protected trade and manufacturing and encouraged overseas expeditions. Under Henry VIII, the church was subjected to the state power as a result of the king's quarrel with the pope over divorcing his first wife. This act removed the last power of the feudal period that hampered the development of parliamentary government. Protestantism penetrated into England after his death. Mary Tudor unsuccessfully tried to recatholize the country, but the religious struggles were ended under Elizabeth I. The English Church became the official church of England, and its doctrine was clearly formulated. In 1588, England defeated its greatest rival. Spain, a huge fleet called the Armada, was crushed by the English navy and the adverse weather. This meant the end of Spanish maritime supremacy. Wales was fully incorporated into England in 1535. Ireland was, however, treated like a colony. Revolts against English attempts to impose Protestantism on Ireland were crushed and followed by clearance and plantation. The Stuart era, 1603 to 1714. The early Stuarts, the Civil War, and the Republican period. James VI of Scotland succeeded Elizabeth on the English throne as James I. His financial difficulties combined with his belief in the divine right of kings and unwise religious outrage police angered Parliament. An organized opposition to the crown emerged, however, under his son Charles I, due to his desire of absolute power, as well as his unparliamentary methods of obtaining money. The growing conflict led to the outbreak of the Civil War between the supporters of the king and of parliamentary party or Roundheads. The victory of the radical wing of the parliamentary party, led by Oliver Cromwell, in the Second Civil War resulted in the king's execution and establishment of a republican regime, the Commonwealth. It was, however, soon followed by Cromwell's Protectorate, a Puritan military dictatorship. The new state became recognized and respected abroad. Ireland was cruelly pacified, and Ulster resettled with British settlers. Scotland and Ireland were annexed to England, but the religious and intellectual tyranny of the Puritans and high taxes alienated English people, and soon after Cromwell's death, the Republican regime collapsed and the monarchy was restored. From the restoration of the monarchy to the end of the Stuart era, 1660 to 1714, together with the monarchy, represented by Charles II, the House of Lords and the Anglican Church were restored in 1660. Two factions developed in Parliament, the Tories and the formed two distinct political parties. The attempt of Charles' brother James II to usurp absolute power led to the so-called Glorious Revolution. James was peacefully replaced by William III, and James Protestant daughter Mary. Thus the basic principles of the constitutional monarchy were established. William and King Anne kept executive power, but their police was controlled by Parliament. The wars with France, the building of a colonial empire and the Industrial Revolution, Home and Foreign Police. The United Kingdom of Great Britain was formed in 1707 by the union of Scotland and England. Ireland was treated as a cruelly exploited colony after William defeated James II at the Battle of the Boyne in 1690. In 1800, it was incorporated into the UK of Great Britain and Ireland. The modern system of government was established after the accession of the Hanoverian dynasty to the British throne in 1714. The Prime Minister and his cabinet replaced the sovereign as the head of the executive. The wars with France had started under William III, whose main aim was to protect his native Holland from French aggression. War conflicts continued throughout the 18th century as Britain and France were fighting for naval supremacy and colonial power. The most serious conflicts were the 7 Years' War in 1768–63, often described as the First World War, and the Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars. As a result of these wars, Britain built its colonial empire, though the American colonies were lost after the American War of Independence. The Industrial Revolution. This gradual process was changing Britain from a predominantly agricultural country into an industrial power had been prepared by the economic development in the second half of the 17th century. The term Industrial Revolution is rather misleading because its process was a slow evolution rather than a revolution, and it did not only concern industry, it included developments in the sphere of finance, as sufficient capital had to be accumulated. In transport, a network of canals, roads, and later railways had to be built to speed up transporting raw materials and goods. In agriculture, small strips of land were enclosed and changed into large fields to enable the use of agricultural machines. In manufacturing, the factory system replaced the formerly used domestic industry, first in the textile industry and coal mining, and later also in iron and steel industry. The invention of a number of machines made this change possible, the most important of them being James Watt's steam engine. As a result of the Industrial Revolution, Britain became the economic, financial, and commercial superpower. It had no serious rivals until the second half of the 19th century. The center of the economy shifted from the agricultural south and east to the center and to the north. These areas also became the most densely populated parts of the country. Two new social classes emerged: factory workers and industrialists.